Hit green.
I call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. and welcome. For the audience here tonight, the City of Glendora utilizes a hybrid meeting format to allow for participation both in person and virtually. In consideration of others and the business conducted tonight, please silence your phones and any electronic devices and refrain from speaking unless recognized. If you are interested in speaking during public comment, speaker cards are located in the lobby area at the rear of the chamber. Please fill out a card and submit it to the recording administrator. For those participating via Zoom, please select the raise hand icon in Zoom before the close of the public comment period, and you will be recognized and unmuted. Again, this is a public meeting for the community of Glendora. We appreciate and respect your participation here this evening. Tonight's meeting, both Flowers and Blum, Trustees Flowers and Trustee Blum are absent. Trustees Landman, Chu, and Tolan, myself, are present. Trustee Landman, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please stand. Place your hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The reordering of and additions to the agenda. Does anyone wish to reorder or add to tonight's agenda? Yep.
I would like to reorder the special item 2 to move it to the front, the first item.
And we need a second for that, right? I second the motion.
So moved. Thank you. Okay, sorry. So we'll move on to the public comment section. The public comment period is now open. We invite members of the public to address the library board. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, speaking once on both on and off agenda items. All questions should be directed to the presiding officer. This is your time to speak uninterrupted. If you are in attendance, please fill out a speaker card and submit it to the recording administrator before the close of the public comment period. Once recognized, speakers should advance to the podium, state your name and the subject matter you wish to discuss. If you are participating via Zoom, select the raise hand icon in Zoom before the close of the public comment period. Once recognized, you will be unmuted, state your name and the subject matter you wish to discuss. Is there anyone in attendance tonight who has submitted a public comment card and would like to speak?
Yeah, thank you, President Tolan. At this time, we've received no emails via the public comment email. We have not received any requests via the Zoom meeting or public comment cards at this time.
Thank you. Okay, then we can close the public comment section. Thank you. Board statements and reports. Do any of the trustees have any reports or announcements? No, seeing none, we'll move on to, if we could please reorder for the item number 2. Yes, recognition of the graduating high school seniors who volunteered at the Glendora Public Library. Mayor Davis, would you please?
Good evening. Thank you for inviting the city council to be part of this tonight. And also here tonight is Kathy Boyer from the Library Foundation. We appreciate volunteers in our community. They strengthen the fabric of our community and bring so much to the community. And we know that the many hours that these particular volunteers have given to the city has added so much to Glendora. I'm sure that Ms. Stone would tell us the cost savings in terms of volunteer hours and what that adds up to. So it is invaluable, the service that you have given to our community through the library. So if I could have Luke come up, please. Luke, on behalf of the city council, on behalf of the citizens of Glendora, we thank you for your volunteerism. And this certificate is in recognition of 218 hours of volunteer service. That is amazing. So thank you so very much for your service to the Glendora Public Library, your commitment to enriching the lives of our citizens and enriching the work that is done through the Glendora Public Library is fantastic. So congratulations. I'm sure more exciting than a certificate, Ms. Boyer has from the Library Foundation, a check. And I think at the end, we're going to have all three students take a photo with the trustees and with ourselves. So thank you very much. Okay, Travis. Travis, thank you for your commitment to serving the Glendora Library, and you have served 241 hours. I'm not very good at being a bean counter and adding up, but if we took that at minimum wage and multiplied that, I'm sure that would be a lot. So we sincerely appreciate your volunteerism and your commitment to the city of Glendora. Congratulations. Okay, David, did you just stay at the library? Come on up. David has volunteered 305 hours. That is amazing. Thank you so very much for your commitment and for your ongoing volunteerism. We wish you the best for all three of you and what lies ahead for you. And thank you for being such an important part of the city and how you've contributed. So thank you so very much. If we could have all three of you come up here.
Oh, they're gonna take on the podium? Oh, yeah, they're gonna take. Yeah, just one of them. Yeah. Erica and Tomoko, you guys need to be in it too. Squeeze it a little bit. Oh, very cool. Ready, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, there you go. They're gonna do one of each. Yeah. One of each.
Come back.
Sure. Oh, that's a good idea. Okay, guys, we're gonna switch for one more. They can take them out. Yeah, you can take them out. No, seriously, I think you get to take them out. Put it on your. I know, you got an
Okay. Vice President Chu would like to say some words
Okay. Oh,
to the volunteers.
we just want to say a little thank you before you guys go. um, so thank you so much for your service to the library continuously after all these years. And I know personally that when you're in high school, it's not easy to balance all your extracurriculars on top of volunteering. And I have seen each of you guys personally at our at our events right after COVID kind of started to dwindle down and we started opening up our library for people to come in and visit. And I saw each and every one of you guys there. So thank you so much. And remember that you guys are always welcome back to the library to volunteer like I am right now, and also to actually just experience all the services and the materials that we have to offer too. Mhm.
Good. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Vice President Chu, for saying what I think we were all thinking. Thank you. We'll go back to item number 1. The report of the library director and library divisions. Sorry. Okay. Report of the library director and library divisions. Director Stone, would you please give your report?
I'd be delighted. It's great to see all of you again. Nice to be here in person. Good evening. I can't let a challenge from the mayor go by, so I will say that that according to an organization known as Independent Sector, as of a year ago, they estimated the value of volunteer time at $28.54 per hour. And so for the 3 of them, for their total volunteer hours as of this award, that's over $21,800, and on average, each of them $7,200 worth of volunteer time. So anyway, I couldn't let the mayor's challenge go unmet in terms of the value, but of course, one of the great things is how they will carry that civic awareness into the future and serve the communities wherever they live as they go forward. So that's, even greater value than $28.54 an hour. But I just thought I'd put that out there. You have a written report in your packets. It's available to the public. It's available online. So I do have a few updates to that this evening. First of all, I just wanted to share a little bit about the mobile elements project for our main floor. This was something generously funded by the Friends Foundation. And there are 3 components to that. First of all, we are looking at purchasing an office pod, basically kind of a mobile meeting room. And the status of that is that we're currently weighing some trade-offs we've discovered, such as convenience of purchasing versus the soundproofing of it. And the size of it versus the mobility of it are some decisions we'll be having to make. And overall, we are trying to be very conscientious about its accessibility. So that's where we're at with the office pod. The mobile shelving, we are working between the city's engineering staff and the vendor to get a floor plan so that we can start really making some specific requests in terms of the numbers of shelves and costing all of that out. And finally, the mobile service desk was ordered at the beginning of April. They have our deposit, and it's currently about a 16-week delay due to COVID-related disruptions. So it's in the works, but stay tuned for that. Since we last met, it's been National Library Week a couple of times. Thank you to Vice President Chu for joining us during the official National Library Week and offering the staff some donuts. And then the next week, when the City Council did its National Library Week proclamation, we also provided some cookies to celebrate the staff. So cheers to everyone who showed a little love to the library staff in National Library Week each time it came by. We had our mid-cycle budget meeting with the city manager, the assistant city manager, administrative services, finance, and HR. And you will be getting a full, well, we expect, if all things go as planned, a full presentation for you next month. So you'll get an update about what the budget, this mid-cycle budget in between the 2 years of a 2-year budget holds for the library. And finally, I just wanted to mention that the Staff Development Day is on the books. We are expecting to be closed for the day on Monday, May 23rd. And we have an exciting sort of keynote training. We are bringing in a group known as Info People, well known in the library world here in California. And they are going to be training the staff on something we mysteriously call the reference interview, which is basically a whole skill set that helps library staff talk with customers and get to the root of what it is that they are really looking for in terms of connecting them with exactly the right resource or expert. So there's a lot of skills built into that customer service element. So we'll be getting staff trained on that. You have, as usual, a statistics summary, and I just wanted to mention a few things about that, since we get to see the full multiple page Excel table that feeds into this, and you get to see it a couple times a year as well, but it always exists there feeding into this statistics summary that you have. So this month, I just wanted to mention that we had limited main floor hours starting last April. So very soon we should have some more month-to-month comparisons for you. Once we get this month's statistics in the bag, you'll start to see some month-to-month, even though we weren't open our full hours, at least you'll start to see some activity that's sort of comparable, as opposed to seeing open months versus the deep in COVID months. I also wanted to mention that behind the scenes, there are many categories of statistics where we're beginning to, where it's like a lot of them are at about 50% now of pre-COVID levels. That seems to be kind of a recurring number, that we're about halfway there. There are a few exceptions to that I wanted to mention behind the scenes. So the circulation customers served were actually up to about 66% of where we were pre-closure of the main floor. The total items loaned were up at around 70%. Total items loaned specifically to youth is outpacing that at about 83%. Our study rooms, especially now that both of them are open again, we're at about 80% of pre-closure levels, and by that I mean pre-closure of the main floor, since many of our other services were still operating during COVID. And finally, our electronic circulation is at about 130% increase. I do want to mention though that as COVID wanes, we are seeing that slightly decrease as we go. So from month to month, we're not the demand for the electronic circulation is starting to decrease just slightly as we see COVID more and more in our rearview mirror. Okay, let's see. And I also wanted to mention that the social media posts continue to be significantly lower. And part of that is because of spring break and other things like that. We just really weren't promoting anything major in March. So that impacts, because there aren't that many posts, that impacts the number of people that were reached through social media. And it's really just March just happens to be a quiet month. So that's why you're seeing that statistic. Those are really my only updates to the written report that is presented to you, and again, is available to the public and is on the websites. I am happy to answer as many questions as I can or turn them over to other experts that happen to be in the room.
Okay, you touch exactly on the point that I wanted to ask a question about, which is the marketing for the social media, and I'm just gonna keep asking about it over and over again. I think a couple months ago, we might have asked to have a special item for social media to make some sort of brief presentation on what their strategic plan is for the library in terms of marketing it. Wondering if there's any updates on that. And then also, do we want to be advertising publicly our opportunities for the youth to volunteer? Has that been advertised on social media? Is that something we don't want to do, or should we be doing? Yeah, because applications just opened up recently, right? Like over spring break, usually it opens up.
Okay, so let
Or-
me work through your questions
Yeah,
in
yeah.
order. So I believe the thing you're mentioning about the social media was that the city is working on a communications plan, a strategic plan, which the library will have, will be part of. And the idea was that there would be a report on that. That plan is not yet at a stage where they are ready to do that. But when they are, we will be sure to have that staff come and talk with you about the city's communication plan. And then as far as the advertising the youth library leaders, there are a couple of different things we might be talking about. There's a youth library leaders program that is year round. And then there is the opportunity to volunteer for the Summer Discovery Challenge. So Cindy, would you like to come up and address how we let people know about those?
Hi, good evening. So I think you're specifically referring to the Summer Discovery Challenge volunteers based on your question. We have not pushed that out on social media. Some of our thinking was to give those volunteers that are part of the Youth Library Leaders Program a chance to get their applications in before we open it up even further. We wanted to make sure that they're in. Also considering that we do have limited spaces, we were cautious on opening it up in the past without having any sort of promotion. We would double or triple the number of volunteers that we could use. And so we were cautious on pushing that out. As we're getting mid to late April at this point, we may be doing some other advertising for that.
Okay, and then how many are we looking to? So now post-COVID, are we looking to decrease the number of volunteers that we typically have?
Yes, so immediately before COVID, we averaged about 150 volunteers during the summer,
Mhm.
which was significantly increased from the time that you were volunteering when we were hovered a little bit closer to 100. But because of some of the changes that we're making, we think great changes for the community as far as the Discovery Challenge. Our need for volunteers is going to be slightly less. So we're looking for between 75 and 80 this summer.
And then for the year-round youth leaders,
Yes.
how many would we want? What is like a good number?
So if, again, there's a couple different pieces to this. So the Youth Library Leaders is really the umbrella program that encompasses things like the workshops that we recently just had, the self-care workshop, or before we had communication. So there's that. There's another piece of the youth advisory boards is another component. Another component is, of course, the Discovery Challenge, and then the year-round volunteers. We have not had really good responses to volunteers looking for year-round work at this time, for year-round service. Unlike a couple of the gentlemen that were in here a little while ago, with all of the other commitments, I think we have a total of 3 that are working week to week at this point. We don't have a limit on it. We're just still testing the waters with it. one of the hardest things to see for us to see is to have volunteers in the library and not really have something for them to do, or not have something where they're going to feel productive. And then they're just kind of standing there, and so we
yeah.
don't want to get into a situation where, they're coming and wanting to share with us, but then we don't have anything for them to do.
Right.
And so we are just kind of treading easily on that as we come out of COVID.
Okay. And so would you say that the never mind. I don't
That's
know
okay.
how I want to word that question. Let me think about how I word that later. Anyone else have anything?
Well,
to say?
and just another piece of that is the Homework Buddies program that I
Mhm.
know is near and dear to some of our hearts. We did solicit through the high school for the National Honor Society, not only Glendora High, but also other surrounding schools.
Mhm.
And we did not have anyone that was interested in volunteering for it this year, which is
Okay.
why you have not seen a return of that program yet.
Uh-huh.
And we can't run it without
Right.
the volunteer tutors.
Right. I wonder if it's because I wonder why we are seeing this low response. I mean, I feel it's probably because of COVID, but I hope that we start to see things pick up in terms of volunteering.
You and me both.
Yeah.
And I think we will be as we start to close out the applications for this summer program, and start, hopefully once we get a handle on summer, start looking at why some of those numbers may have been low, and reaching out for other opportunities to other programs, other ways to market, other avenues to make sure that our students are getting the best possible resources and ways to connect with their community.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Forgive my lapse of mentioning that happened to be our library services manager, Cindy Romero. I called her up, just said Cindy, but that's who that is for everybody who's watching and doesn't know. Library services manager, Cindy Romero. Thank you.
I have a question, Cindy. Sorry, just really quick. I was just curious, what's the age bracket of people who are usually the homework buddies? What
So for
age group?
the volunteers, or for the
Volunteers.
volunteers are all high school. So we don't take students for homework buddies that are younger than high school. And that's part of what we started way back when it started as math buddies.
Okay, so minimum freshman year.
Mm.
Okay.
And we
about-
do tend towards some of the older kids, because they need to have a certain level of maturity that, to be able to help some of the younger students. Some of the students that come in for help are 5th to 6th grade. So there needs to be a little bit of a gap.
Would it be the summer going into 9th grade? Or would it start from?
For
fall
like,
9th
if we
grade?
were gonna look for volunteers to start next year, it would be next year's 9th graders.
Okay, all right. Thanks.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Yes. I'm going through these slides here. And I have some notes. Could you elaborate a little bit on the California State Park program with the parking pass? I saw county libraries advertising this, and I was excited to see that our library was also participating in this program. Could you, elaborate a little bit more on how that works?
Absolutely. So the California State Library has made available to all public libraries passes to the state park system. And they are actually physically passes that we are checking out, very similar to other traditional library materials. We have one currently and are expecting 2 more. And you can always, like any other material, you can call the staff, and with your library card number, we can put you on the waiting list for a pass. We currently have them set at a 3-week checkout period.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I think it's good that you guys also have that waiting list process in place, because I expect that to be a very popular item that people will want to use, especially in the summer. Oh, in 2020. Oh, that's awesome.
So for those who couldn't hear that, we have the 1 pass so far, and there are 23 people on the waiting list. It's been embraced, let's just say, by our users. So we look forward to getting the 2 more of those.
Cindy?
Oh, yes, Cindy, why don't you come on up?
Sorry, I just wanted to also comment that the parking, it is a parking pass. It is a day use pass. So it isn't available. I mean, as I think it's a fabulous program, but just a reminder that it's for over 200 state parks. There is a list of parks that's not available. Library staff is always happy to help you find out which ones it applies to and which ones don't. But again, it is a parking day pass for vehicles of 9 people or less. So no school buses, yes.
Any other questions or comments?
Excited to see the new computers that we are getting. Is that?
Yes, absolutely.
That's a big update.
Yes. So actually, we're really, really appreciative of information systems, otherwise known as IT, especially Sam Robin, the director of that department. We were talking with him about updating our 14 computer stations for the next budget year. And after talking with us through all the options and assessing things, he went ahead and realized that he could fund them this fiscal year. So he has ordered 10, and that's based on our recommendation. As you know, our Wi-Fi statistics are through the roof. The public computers are showing less use than they did when those stations were installed. So we did some statistical analyses, and we feel we can do with 10 stations. So he is going to be bringing in 10 new ones for us.
So what happens to the current computers that they are replacing? Are they going to be recycled or?
That's up to information systems.
Okay.
They are, I believe we found out that they were installed in 2014. If I'm, Melky, does that sound right? So, they're not high end at this stage of their lives.
Still usable, right?
So that would be information systems call.
Got it. I think that's it for me.
I just have one quick comment. It's great to see, as you guys have continued to do, showing up at Shepherd's Pantry on the 31st and having library cards available to the community members who were there to pick up food. I think that's fantastic. So thank you and your staff for that. So moving on to item 3. The Strategic Framework Review and Strategic Responses Update for April 2022. Director Stone, would you please report?
I'd be happy to. Once again, let me just page to my written notes here. Okay, so next slide, please. So the strategic framework is built around 8 responsibilities that we believe are enduring for public libraries, sort of regardless of the circumstances that the world finds itself in. These things are our foundation, and it is the strategic responses within this framework that are mobile and flexible and that reflect the current state of the world, such as pandemic times. So next slide, please. There are lots of different ways we describe these 8. That first slide with those 8 words is like our most shorthand version, but we're going to go through them one at a time. We had a very extensive review of this last May, so we won't go into it at that level of detail. This is just like a 3-month check-in to talk about what's been done in each of these 8 responsibilities since the last quarterly report on this. So the first area, first responsibility that we have has to do with the idea that the containers that ideas come in, they become inaccessible over time. Either they degrade or the technology becomes outmoded. Lots of different reasons that the containers ideas come in become inaccessible over time. So part of our responsibility is making sure that however the ideas come packaged, there are always ways to access them. Next slide, please. So one of the wins, again, this is just a 3-month check-in. One of the wins since we last talked is some big steps forward in creating some new resources of local history. Specifically, this is taking the Clio.com platform online and in an app, and transferring the Glendora Historic Core walking tour into that format, and plus also enriching it with additional research so that this becomes more of a clearinghouse. It's a new resource that hadn't existed before, and this platform allows us some opportunities in the future to crowdsource from the public and to do some thematic maps and that sort of thing. And it basically takes these data and puts them into maps of the community. And we are partnering with the Glendora Historical Society on this, and probably other agencies as we go along. So that's our big step forward in the world of preservation since we last reported to you. Next slide, please. So this next responsibility has to do with the idea that basically, as time passes, everything just gets more and more disordered. Chaos grows as we move along, and information is no exception to that rule. So, so it's important to have expertise and resources and systems that help provide order in the world of ideas. Next slide, please. So one of our big wins in this area is that because of that expertise is one of the key things. So the staff that purchase library materials and that answer questions real time at the desk, and that organize the signage for the library and all of that sort of stuff. That's all about organizing this world of ideas. And so we are really enriching that resource to the public as we are working to fill the vacant library services manager and library technician positions. That's a huge way that we help organize the world of ideas. I also want to mention that another big thing is, of course, the app, the library app that is being grant funded by the Friends Foundation. That's not listed here because we are still in beta, which I believe we were the last time we reported to you. But I did want to mention that, of course, that is a huge way of bringing order to the world of ideas. And just to let you know that we closed another round of testing just last week. And so hopefully if that clears away most of the bugs and glitches and things, you'll be seeing that app come live pretty soon. So we don't have a timeline from the vendor for that, but I didn't want to let it go unmentioned because that is that's a big one. Next slide, please. The app is also a big one for this responsibility, which is based on the idea that we are, corporeal beings, and the ideas have to be somehow near us, whether that's bringing books near to us or whether that's bringing electronic data near to us. We have to be in its proximity to be able to use it, to use the data and to interact with the world of ideas. So obviously the app, in addition to organizing information, is also a proximity service. Next slide, please. So this is an area that we really excel in is this idea of bringing the world of ideas nearby. So some of the things we have done since we last reported is that participating, for example, in the State Parks Pass program is one of those. Community residents also were able to access water conservation information through the library as we partnered with the Glendora Water Department to offer leak fixing kits and fix a leak week information. Next slide, please. We also partnered on a youth symposium that offered resources for all children, but especially foster children, academic resources. This one is also was so successful that there are plans to make it annual moving forward. And this was a way, again, of bringing that information, those ideas into one place so that people can collect, talk about it, interact with it conveniently. Also, we offer to service clubs in Glendora. We offer our skills at planning programs for their periodic meetings. And among those that we have offered recently is one about the Lifehouse Foundation in Glendora. So this is an organization that helps promote positive changes for children and their families. And so we helped coordinate that organization coming to a Kiwanis meeting so that their members could learn about this agency and what it does. And again, even if these things aren't happening at the library, this idea of proximity services has to do with making sure that that connection is made wherever the people are. And even if it's not our own resources, if it's another expert and another agency that need to connect, that's part of what we do. Next slide, please. Continuing along in the idea of the proximity services, you already mentioned, thank you very much, the Shepherd's Pantry services. That's again, making sure that we and the World of Ideas are where the folks are who need them. Another one is the Glendora Historical Society programs that we've partnered on for quite some time. Recently, we've done one on the trains, the depots of Orange County and the history of Union Station. And an additional way of making sure that this is accessible nearby our customers is that the train depot program was filmed and is also available on the City of Glendora's YouTube channel. So those folks who couldn't come and be near that World of Ideas in Bidwell Forum can also be near that World of Ideas online. Next slide, please. We are working very hard to make sure that our electronic resources, which of course are available 24/7 and wherever you have the opportunities of the networked world, and we're working hard to make sure that people know about them, even if they never come into the library. And so our most recent effort that way is reaching out to local medical waiting rooms and offering them information of how their customers can access newspapers and magazines from Press Reader. And we offer them QR codes that link those customers to places, a way to get library card online and a way to access the Press Reader online, so that right there instantaneously they have ways to get to that information and those ideas. We also, of course, as we'll talk about again later this evening, are celebrating the 50th anniversary at 140 South Glendora. And part of the goals of that celebration is to have community members sort of reconnect with each other, with the staff, with the volunteers that have contributed to their World of Ideas over the last 50 years. And since we last met, we had a great celebration up on the plaza to kind of kick off the rest of that anniversary of the building celebration. Next slide, please. Like I mentioned, the proximity services, that's an area where we really excel. So to continue in that vein, we offer we call a story stroll that wanders through the library garden next to the library, and it offers all sorts of different kinds of opportunities. Most recently, well, not most recently, but since 2022, an example is that in celebration of Black History Month, visitors to the garden were able to read and follow along with Amanda Gorman's Change Sings. The study rooms, I mentioned that in our statistical report. We have, since we last met, we have opened up the second of our study rooms since reopening the main floor after COVID. And also in our outreach to other agencies in town, we have connected since January with the Daughters of the American Revolution to talk with them about the library and library resources. Next slide, please. More outreach opportunities for other agencies to connect with our experts and to tell us what it is that they need, and give us a chance to help connect them with our resources or other resources in the community that may help them achieve their missions. So among those that we had those connections with since January were Shepherd's Pantry and the Tri-Community Adult School. And we also, the seniors who attended the LaFetra Health and Wellness Fair also had a chance to meet with our expert staff and learn about library connections. Next slide, please. And finally, has been sprinkled out through all of these proximity services, but the World of Ideas, of course, is not just about data offered online or in books. It's also the ideas that we share with each other. It's that chance to discuss them and to grow them even orally is part of that whole world that we serve. And so you've seen a few examples of that. And another one is that our teens had a chance to do that together when we returned to after hours programming. It was out on the plaza, but at least they had a chance to get together and have some fun and celebrate that World of Ideas after library hours. So that's what we packed in a lot of that since January of 2022. Next slide, please. Okay, another one of our responsibilities is that because we are corporeal beings, we are all built differently, and we have different physical and neurological needs, and our bodies, and brains express themselves differently, and so we are here to serve everybody. Next slide, please. A couple of things that we have done toward this responsibility since January are that the Rotary attendees at one of their meetings learned about a program that provides functional independence for people with disabilities. This program is called Mobility Dog, and this is an example of another program that we helped facilitate for one of these service clubs. Again, connecting resources and ideas with other agencies and people, regardless of whether it happens within inside our walls or not, whether there are materials or not, we're still making those connections. And this one just happens to also address that idea that we're trying to make all of our services and grow that awareness of different physiological and neurological needs. And also, we do serve some neurologically diverse customers, and those are among the ones who were delighted to see our visual and creative, our coloring pages for adults return. And this gives everybody an opportunity for some visual and creative stimulation. And this was specifically identified by some of our caregivers that come on site as being welcomed by some of our neurologically diverse customers. Next slide, please. Okay, here's another one that's pretty traditional. We really excel at. So we, as these beings that we are, we have to learn different concepts to be able to interact with the world of ideas. I mean, the alphabet is probably the most obvious and basic of those, but there are all sorts of other skills that we need to be able to interact with the world of ideas. And so human development is another one of our responsibilities, specifically related to that access to data and information. Next slide, please. So since January, some of the things we have done. So I got to say that I have just had the opportunity in the last few weeks to go in and myself review what some things like story time and arts and crafts, what those have to do specifically with the development of skills that allow people to work with the world of ideas. So it's been a nice refresher for me over the last few weeks. So the badge contest, it's about expressing creativity for sure, but it also turns out that drawing representational figures and associating meetings with artwork are part of those skills that help people have different kinds of literacies, right? So the badge contest works in a variety of ways, including this idea of how people connect with the world of ideas. Also with story time. So there's a lot of aspects of story time. It's great that we read books to them, but there are also all sorts of other like finger plays and songs. And in a story time, children learn to interact with the stories and the details in them. And they also do things like develop their small muscle movements with the finger plays and also with things like the crafts. And it's building that, like I said, that whole set of literacies. And so, besides our ongoing story times, we did have our Piggy and Gerald book party, at which all of those things were happening. And again, it's not that celebrating the joy of reading is enough by itself, but it was a good reminder to me that there are lots of very specific cognitive and physiological things that happen because of these exploratory and creative events that we offer. Okay, also along the lines of human development, again, drawing representational figures associating, excuse me, next slide, please. I'm about to repeat all that great stuff again. I'm so excited about it. Okay, so so we were honored to be able to do 2 professional development sessions at a Glendora Unified School District Professional Development Day. So the teachers there were able to learn about resources that were available to their students. We're delighted to offer that kind of service. I hope to do that quite often in the future. Also, teens aged 10 through 17 practiced their communication skills as part of the Youth Library Leaders Program. And this is the year-long one that we were talking about earlier. I do want to mention that that one is bi-monthly during the school year and goes into a once-a-month pattern during the summers. Next slide, please. Here's another one, this idea of sparking imagination. The Dr. Seuss celebration this year, we had Dr. Seuss stories and Dr. Seuss themed crafts. And one extra element this time was that they were planned by a local Girl Scout troop as part of a service project of theirs. So also that goes into that whole sort of civic literacy and volunteer contribution. And speaking of civic literacy, I was going to mention again, wrapping back around to the Summer Discovery Challenge volunteer applications that application period did open on March 28th for ages 12 through 17. So folks, if you have youth who are interested in learning a little bit about how programs are developed and what it means to serve your community, we are delighted to have you sign up and be part of that. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so one thing about ideas, about data, about information is that they are subject to human beings' perception and influence. And so they're not absolute. And so another one of our responsibilities is to make sure that message is clear and to provide as much context as we can so that the users and interactors around ideas have all the facts they need to understand where information is coming from, what might be influencing it, how it might be perceived, how accurate it might be, and that sort of thing. Next slide, please. So we were talking earlier about our Shepherd's Pantry outreach. There's something there called the Faith and Finance class, and the library was able to provide some financial literacy awareness and other things to this Faith and Finance class at Shepherd's Pantry. So this idea of being able to distinguish, what is what's it's not necessarily that we're telling them which is good advice and which is not, but we're giving them the skills to basically analyze and figure out what resources are going to be accurate and useful to them. Next slide, please. Another thing about ideas is that they are basically property. They can be bought and sold, they can be protected, they can be stolen. So they can be given away for free for the good of, of the people. Anything that you can think of in terms of tangible property, probably also true of the world of ideas. So the library has a responsibility to keep on top of who gets to share in that value, how, when it needs to be protected, when it needs to be made available for free, how somebody's own personal data, what the value of that is, and all that sort of thing. Next slide, please. So this is probably one of our more challenging ones, and we are still sort of keeping our eye on the community and on the world news and on the local news to identify places where we think we can help serve the public understand the complexity of data as property and sort of the freedom of it and the protection of it. So we don't have anything to report for the last few months, but we do keep an eye on that regularly. Next slide, please. And of course, we are corporeal, and actually, you know, all the machinery involved with sharing ideas is also in its own way, you know, corporeal. And so there are, you know, limited resources on the planet, and we have an obligation, public libraries as a whole, to just to make sure we are aware of what those resources, are required, how to protect them, how to make plans for if they're not available, and that sort of thing. Next slide, please. Now, our Glendora Public Library Friends Foundation is many, many things to the library. This is not the only thing it is, but one thing I do like emphasizing about it is the book loft is, among other things, a really, really great service to the city in terms of the reuse and recycling of the containers of the world of ideas, right? The library, the public library is an old hand at that, but the book loft gives the public yet another way, if they have you know, containers that are still viable for use, to share those and have those, you know, purchased by the community again. That whole, like I said, reuse and recycling. So I put the MOU signing here. It could be in so many places because the foundation touches so many parts of library service. But that book loft is really a significant service, not just for cost-effective buying of books, but also for a way to make sure that they have ways of living a second, third, fourth, and maybe even fifth life. We do have a fully signed MOU. In fact, the city clerk just brought an inked copy to my desk this afternoon for me to deliver to the Friends Foundation. All of the ink is on it. Next slide, please. Okay, and finally, this is not technically one of the 8 responsibilities, but there are behind the scenes. I generally tell people that my job is to clear the way. We have this wonderful expert staff, and they have all these great ideas. They have all of this knowledge of the community, and my job is to make sure they have a smooth path. So we do try to talk about some of the stuff that happens behind the scenes. Next slide, please. And really, since January, the main things here are just some delightful movement in terms of our expert staff. So Jenny Reyes has become a full-time librarian 1. And as she has done that, Rochelle White has accepted a temporary assignment as that senior library technician. That's all very exciting. And of course, even here with us today, we have our administrative assistant, Gabby Thompson, who's come on board since we last reported to you. And then we have other staff, library aide Carlos Rios, and library aide Annika Lotti also joined the team. So I look forward to making their path a little bit smoother too, as they begin to explore how to provide the world of ideas to the city of Glendora. Next slide, please. So those are the 8 areas of responsibility plus administration. These are 8 words are our most shorthand way of describing that. I am happy to answer any questions you might have about the strategic framework or about the ways that we have been trying to respond to the community through that framework in the last few months.
Are there any questions? No? Okay. Thank you, Director Stone.
Thank you.
We'll move on then to the consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar will be enacted by one motion without individual discussion unless a board member has requested it be removed for separate discussion. Does anyone wish to pull or comment on anything on the consent calendar? Seeing no one, may I request a motion to receive and file?
So move.
I seconded.
Thank you. That is a motion by Vice President Chu, a second by Trustee Landman. I'll take a roll call vote. Trustee Blum is absent. Trustee Landman,
Aye.
Trustee Flowers is absent. Vice President Chu,
Aye.
President Toland,
Aye.
and that passes 3-2.
Thank you. Moving on to board agenda items, member agenda items. Discussion of the 50th anniversary of the current facility for the Glendora Public Library as requested by trustees Lamb and Chu. Director Stone, would you please provide your report?
Thank you. Next slide, please. So we've been bringing this to you for several months. So I'm just going to, as a quick reminder of some of the parameters of the 50th at 140 South anniversary celebration. We do have a few specific goals that we intend to achieve by celebrating this anniversary. We've been through these several times, so I'll just pick and choose a couple of them. For example, we intend that the community will see the library building as one component of a service package that also includes opportunities out in the community at home and online. Next slide, please. And also, among other things, that the community will gain a greater understanding of the role of the library building, its challenges and its needs, and ways that they can help develop its future. So these 5 goals on these couple of slides are supposed to help inform everything we are undertaking in the celebration over these months. Next slide, please. As we do that, there are some things we're just keeping in mind in addition to the goals listed above. And those include complying with the Brown Act, making sure that library management and administration are part of the conversation throughout. Also that we are aware and respectful of the city media specialist's time, and that there are different roles for official and unofficial messaging and outlets for information for the city. Next slide, please. The Glendora Public Library Friends Foundation was very generous in grant funding these celebrations. So this is just the reminder of the initial grant funds that were awarded. We are working with the foundation and with city finance to appropriately and transparently address these specific categories as needed. There may be some that needed different amounts, and the Friends Foundation has been very flexible about us about how we actually categorize all these funds. So we are working with city finance on accounting for all of that as we go. Next slide, please. This is our flow chart that you have seen before that just describes kind of the very broad categories of teams that we have been working with. When I wrote this up, we did not have any particularly new updates for you. I will add a couple of verbal things. The story stroll that's mentioned under informational programs. They are working on the details of that now. We hope to have that up in May. So those are going to be sort of fun facts about the library building of the past 50 years and into the future. The decorating and staff branding, we have mentioned before that they are looking at lanyards, but at the moment they are actually focusing on the in-house displays that we hope you will be seeing very soon. And then finally, under local history, I've already talked earlier this evening about the Clio project, getting the walking tour mounted online and on app. And I'm happy to say that those meetings with at the Glendora Historical Society Museum will be picking up next week. So those are some verbal updates. And as usual, I turn it over to the trustees and with a thank you for all of the work you have done to make a lot of this happen. We did not have the bandwidth to do some of the celebrations that you have been key in organizing. So I thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing from you if you have anything to report.
Well, we have been working very hard, working our fingers to the bone. So this is exciting. These are just some ideas that we were talking about recently. Did you want to share about? Okay, President Toland suggested possibly looking at getting like ice cream also available for the July 8th movie in the park incident celebration. So we're looking into that still, and that sounds exciting. We're talking about possibly working on planning an advertisement or a mailer to the community with a QR code with the event. Let's see, what is that? And the Friends Foundation and different service groups in the community are going to be helping as well with the July 8th celebration. Library staff is talking about creating a type of activity unknown at this point. Did you want to add anything, Director Stone?
I think that we'll leave that for a future meeting.
Okay, don't want to steal any thunder. So that would be good. Okay, all right. And I'm looking forward to hearing about that. That is going to be awesome. Also, what was brought up when Director Stone and we met with Maggie from the Friends Foundation, talking about doing a reel promoting the event and then getting it onto social media, kind of like a advertisement, like a teaser almost. So Vice President Chu may need some assistance here. I don't know. So if you have any suggestions or ideas, that would be great. Going to look at meeting back with community service directors also to talk about, such things as, do we need to add extra porta potties to the event? How should everything be laid out? So we're working on planning that out. Did I skip anything from that? So the Friends will be there participating in different service organizations. That's a big thing. And then we were also discussing the art component that will take place in November. And that's really exciting. So Director Stone concocted a fabulous theme, and I fully support this. Visions of 2072. So Visions of 2072. Looking at possibly having students from St. Lucy's, Glendora High School, Charter Oak. And so we're in the discussion with them, planning some type of an artwork to be on display for an amount of time that they will suggest. And then Director Stone and Maggie came up with epic ideas, based off of the little store was at Huntington Library. Was it the gift shop? And they have book bags, or they have screensavers or bookmarks, Christmas cards, thank you notes, things like that, featuring the students' art to provide a longer display, and then having them possibly available on a print on demand shop. So that was, now I know the vocabulary. So that was clever. So where they have the artwork there, but let's say you want to order a mug with that particular artwork that the students created, and then you could go ahead and order that, but it adds life to the art. And so there was that. That was a big deal. So that I like that. So I thought that was cool.
The artwork is a great idea. Yeah, you guys have been doing a lot of work behind the scenes.
So
Thank
there's a
you.
lot to explore still with that idea of doing something print on demand. I mean, we've had that, it's been in the, on the table for maybe 4 days. So we don't know the realities of how that would pan out, but we really do want, the main idea is that we're interested in trying to find some way, since the exhibition will be, a finite length, that there might be some other way to make that artwork again nearby to other people who may not be coming into the library, or might have sort of longer lasting, objects that people can own. But again, seriously, that meeting was about 4 days ago, so we're still in the exploratory stages of all of that.
there's much to learn about print on demand. And then also I was thinking of having some on display ready for purchase as well at the Friends, the book loft. So that would be a great way to get people involved. And maybe possibly other locations throughout the city too, at little small businesses. I don't know, but yeah. So those are our ideas, but that's planned for November. It would be kind of like the grand finale for the birthday, the 50th celebration, the
Those are great
year-long
ideas.
celebration.
Yeah, I love that idea of being able to feature their students' artwork in the book loft. That'd be awesome. And if we could circulate that in the local businesses and then have, say, like proceeds go towards the Friends Foundation, I think people would be more inclined to purchase local artwork from our students. I did have one question. When is the first movie in the park for the summer series? So we're not the first event, right?
We are.
We are the
yeah.
first event. Okay,
Yes.
so so is there a way, do we have a way to anticipate how many people might be showing up? No.
No, so we're trying to figure it out.
The park.
Okay.
And I've never attended one in the past.
Oh, they
So
get crowded.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have no idea how many people
Yeah.
exactly.
It will be interesting to see what the turnout will be after COVID. But I imagine that people are looking for things to do in the summer, right? And so people are excited to come back to
That's-
these activities.
That's what I was curious about, the
The transition.
pre
back.
and
Yeah.
post COVID count. But
Director Stone, if it's all right with you, if the other trustees have ideas, would you please email Director Stone with those ideas? Like what you had just said about the book loft,
Mhm.
the artwork being displayed, if that's okay.
Yeah, individually, that would be just, you can send them to me. That would be fine. Yep, thank you. And in case it helps with sense of scale, we did meet with community services some time ago, obviously to kick this all off. They were great, by the way. Shout out to them. And that conversation led to our contract with In and Out, and that we're expecting to serve 400 hamburgers. So that, if that gives you any sense of the scale. it's-
We're looking for about the same for either snow cones or ice cream, that sort of thing. And then
Oh, that'd be cool to work at the ice cream shop in downtown. I love their ice cream. Anyways, yeah.
thank you, Trustee Lamb.
Did you want to add anything?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. That's, thank you for doing so much of the legwork, and your staff for on top of everything else that you're doing. So it's a big year. Okay. If there aren't any other questions or comments? No? Okay. Then may I request a motion to report back?
Yeah, you can
Our
receive and
next
file the
meeting,
report. Yeah.
Receive and file this. We have our next meeting about the 50th at 1:40 next month. So we'll have some further updates.
Maybe online.
Possibly, yep.
What was that?
There might, we're also looking to schedule an online Zoom meeting
In between.
in between meeting in person. Great.
I just want to clarify for those who might be watching that that when we say we, those are subsets of the Board of Library Trustees. That is not a library trustees meeting. We will not have a quorum of them present. That we've been working in with sets of 2 trustees at a time with the staff. So just to clarify what that means.
Okay, so can we get a motion to receive and file?
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file.
I second.
You. I will take a roll call vote. Trustee Blum is absent. Trustee Landman.
Aye.
Trustee Flowers is absent. Vice President Chu.
Aye.
President Tolan.
Aye.
And that passes 3-2. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to unfinished business. There aren't any unfinished business items. We'll move on to new business. A self-evaluation of the Board of Trustees for fiscal year 2021 through 2022. Director Stone, would you please report?
Happy to. Thank you. Next slide, please. So on the books is an annual self-evaluation process for the Board of Library Trustees. Of course, COVID wreaks havoc with a lot of things, but generally speaking, there's an April agenda item, is a chance to revisit the procedure of self-evaluation before the actual self-evaluation begins. Does that make sense? In 2021, the board voted to waive the self-evaluation due to COVID impacts from the prior months. And before that, before COVID hit, the written self-evaluations were provided to the recording secretary and then added unchanged into the board packet and simply discussed and then documented in the minutes. The discussion was documented in the minutes of the meeting. Next slide, please. So this is, again, that opportunity to review and discuss your next steps and assignments as led by President Toland.
Thank you. Are we all familiar? Have we all had a chance to look at these? I'm not sure that our new trustees have seen these. Trustee Flowers and Trustee Landman. I think only
We've seen
we've seen these.
the goals, yes,
from
but we have
last year.
not performed our own
you
self-evaluation
have
since
not
the
yet.
beginning of our term. Yeah.
And I have not evaluated.
Yeah, so this will be a new
myself.
process for all of us.
Mhm. So I think we would like to move forward, right?
I think
There's no
so,
reason
yeah.
not to.
I think it's a good way to figure out whether we are doing our job correctly and what we need to improve on.
Yes.
So you are welcome to use that mechanism that was the most recent one before COVID, or to figure out a different way that you would like to proceed in terms of creating that self-evaluation. Like I said, the most recent just happened to be that everybody sort of wrote their own statements and they were just included and discussed rather than being compiled or synthesized. But part of this evening is just for you to decide how you want to actually conduct your self-evaluation, in addition to whether or not you do. So
Okay. So you're saying in the past, trustees would just write a paragraph about how they felt, or was there like some sort of Excel sheet that was provided to us on different categories that we should be evaluating ourselves on?
most recently, each person just submitted a statement. And they were just collected by the recording secretary.
And they were discussed openly in the public, or is there a
Yes,
closed
correct.
session for
No,
that?
no, it's
Got it.
open. Yeah, it's open. And then it gets, so the idea being that the documents get put into the packet as part of the packet process. And then the discussion is documented in the minutes so that any conversation about differing opinions or any of that's how that sort of becomes part of the record.
Got it.
That's how it was done last time. That's just so.
Think if I remember correctly, an email was sent to us and we responded back with our own, 1, 2, 3 paragraphs. And I think that went to you. Is that right, Director Stone? I can't remember. It's been,
I don't think we,
There wasn't one.
I don't think we've done one.
There was not one last year.
when we first started though, there wasn't,
No, we did one for the library. We did an evaluation for the library
Library director.
director, but not for ourselves.
but not for ourselves.
Yes, which is done how frequently? Usually every
And it's usually done annually.
annually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not remembering that correctly. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I do remember that the minutes
Uh-huh.
stated that the board had decided that due to the fact that COVID did not allow for an entire term of
Right.
events to be able to participate in.
Right, I
that
remember that
There
Zoom
wasn't
meeting.
sufficient time to actually give an evaluation.
Mhm,
So you decided to forego the evaluation.
mhm.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Merkley and Gutierrez.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do remember that. So there isn't an actual form that we fill out for our own self-evaluations. This would be something that we would provide.
There is not, that does not preclude there being one.
Mhm.
Right? I mean, welcome to it, give staff direction to, to research and find other examples of that, or to make suggestions of that, or if you think there's a series of questions that you would like all of you to answer, you can create that series of questions. Any of those options are open to you. It depends, I guess, if I may make the suggestion, maybe if you talk about what it is you hope to get out of it, like what you want the goal of the evaluation to be, what sort of product you want, then you can design the tool to get you to that.
I was just wondering, would there be like a prompt perhaps? Like
I think that's what we
like
should
a
probably
guiding
discuss
prompt.
Like the
on
mission
whether-
statement of the library or
Yeah,
something
I
like
think
that.
the goals that we have in our that we have written out for us, I think that would be a good guideline for us to create a prompt and answer and rate ourselves whether we met that point or not, and then add comments similar to the evaluation that we do, the format evaluation that we have for the
So
library.
you're
director.
referring to packet page number 65?
Yes,
right?
correct.
Okay, and then that's a great idea.
So timeline wise, we should have this completed and ready for discussion by May or June.
It's entirely your
think-
call.
Yeah, it would have to be at least before June, before our terms
Our term ends
in June.
June 30th.
Yeah,
So have these ready for June
for discussion.
for discussion in
Yeah.
June. Could I add one more item in addition to packet page number 65 when we're doing our self-evaluations, is to reacquaint ourselves to the mission statement of the library and making sure that
Mhm.
we're aligned with that as well.
Yeah. So so maybe should we create this Excel file prompt, or should we delegate this task? What would you guys think would be easier?
Or
I'm
Or
happy
would
just
it
to make
be
comments.
a response
Okay,
to?
That would work. Yeah,
What do you think?
I think
I
that's
think that's good.
probably the
Yeah,
cleanest way to
that's the
do it.
easiest way. Yeah.
To respond to each of the 7 topics
Mhm.
on page 65,
9,
65 of the packet?
65
9?
and 66.
Oh, sorry, nine topics. Yes, on the back.
Director Stone, do you have any suggestions? What do you think?
So just one mechanical thing, so to speak, is that it's best if it is not a single document to which you all contribute,
Right.
right? So this is a matter of there being like a single point of collection. And I believe we can certainly try and document this for you if you like, but I believe that when this particular procedure was established, it was so that there was not a single person, either among the trustees or a staff person, who was trying to interpret everybody's statement and synthesize them into a document, and who, and trying to represent everybody. They just decided that everybody's statements would be included as they
As
were,
written.
so that there, we didn't have that influence over, over collecting them in any way. So we're happy to arrange, I'm happy to be your collection point if you like. And I can, based on your staff instructions tonight, I can certainly, send out an email with the goals in the body of it, so that you can comment on each one if that's an easy thing to respond to. Or I can send you a Word file, or, and then each of you would just fill out a separate copy of that. Any of those things works mechanically.
I think if you sent out a Word file with the text of, the text of the goals for us to each fill out, so it's in the same format. And then when it's put into the packet, it looks nice and clean and similar in terms of the formatting. And then in our discussion, we can just see if each one of us has anything to say about it and discuss.
Sure. I mean, I think it's a good time for us to be reflective and
Yeah.
ensuring that we are
And discuss ways to improve as a team or individually.
yeah, in what we're doing in support of the library.
Mhm.
Okay, so just to be clear, then the collection point will be Janet, and then she'll collect all of the results that have come in to be presented at a later date, I'm assuming for further discussion.
For June,
For June, yeah.
June
So-
meeting
Okay, okay,
would be discussed then.
okay.
Is
I
that all
think
right,
the
Janet?
word file is a good
Yes.
idea. The word file is a very good idea.
Can I clarify, do you want the actual, I mean, as a Word file, the actual goals document? There was some mention of also the mission statement. Do you want that somehow also incorporated? What's your,
If, when you send out the email to the trustees, Director Stone, would you please just add the mission statement, just so that we're all mindful of it as we're going through our self-evaluation?
to the body of the email or to the goals document?
To the body of
To
the
the body of the
email.
email.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Did you not want to include it with the goals document, have it all streamlined?
Well, it's something that we should all be mindful of, right? In support of
Mhm.
the library. So if that's something that we're reflecting on as we evaluate how we've performed so far on these 9 points. If that, what do you think? Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Do you agree?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, so at this point then, if we're completed with the discussion, okay, just to be clear, then the board is to use the goals as a guideline, which would be found in packet page 65, respond to each item on the list. With the timeline, the evaluations will be completed by June and will include a library mission statement. Director Stone will be the collection point and will send an email with instructions and mission statement with an attached goal and present the results at a meeting in June. Can I get a motion, please?
Oh, can we also add that when would you be able to send this out to us so we have proficient amount of time to fill it out?
I should be able to send it within 1 week.
Perfect.
And
Okay.
I will offer you a deadline based on our agenda packet deadlines to let you know when I would need that back to create as part of the packet.
Perfect.
And that will be noted in the minutes as well. Okay, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
You,
Second?
you. I'll take a roll call vote. Trustee Blum is absent. Trustee Landman,
Aye.
Trustee Flowers is absent. Vice President Chu,
Aye.
President Tolan.
Aye.
That passes 3-2. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any, do any of the trustees or staff have any questions or closing comments?
I do want a quick update on the library vacancy. Sorry, the applications that have been received. The deadline was the 14th at noon, and we have 6 total applications for the 3 vacancies. So we expect to have interviews coming up in May, I believe, for council. And we'll let you know when that agenda comes up so that in case you want to participate or attend that meeting.
So that'll be Tuesday, May 10th, is that right?
I want to say it's the 10th, yeah.
Tuesday,
It will
May
be
10th.
on a Tuesday.
Yes,
Right.
yes. It will be a special meeting previous to the regular business meeting. And that's
Thank
it.
you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Okay, does anyone else have any questions or comments tonight? It was nice seeing everyone in person. Yes,
I
thank
agree.
you. Okay, then this meeting is adjourned tonight at, is that 8:28?